In a few weeks, we'll begin with Advent, which is the beginning of the liturgical year. And so we're at the end of the liturgical year. In a couple of weeks, we'll finish with Christ the King. And at the end of the liturgical year, the Church puts in front of us the last things. And so these readings today are speaking about eternal life. And we can wonder, does it really matter much to believe in the existence of eternal life? And we see that it's very important, because what we have in the first reading is witness, martyrs, who are able to do impressive, heroic virtue. And looking at what they're thinking, it's because of their belief in eternal life that they're able to do what they do. There were 7 brothers with their mother who were arrested and tortured with whips and scourges by the king. And so there was pressure from Greek culture to give in, to abandon their particular religion, to force them to eat pork in violation of God's law, something seemingly not so important. But they don't give in to pressure. Even the threat of death itself, they remain firm in their commitment to be faithful to the law. One of the brothers said, "We're ready to die rather than transgress the laws of our ancestors. You're depriving us of this present life, but the King of the world will raise us up to live again forever. It is for his laws that we are dying." So they're able to remain faithful. And what helps them to persevere, what helps them to endure, is this assurance of eternal life. And for that reason, they don't abandon the law. Another one held out his hands as he spoke these noble words. It was from heaven that I received these. For the sake of his laws, I disdained them, and from him I hope to receive them again. God gave me these hands. I disdain them because God can give them back to me. The king and his attendants marveled at the young man's courage because he regarded his sufferings as nothing. Everything that they were doing to pressure, to force, they didn't allow them to affect them, considered sufferings as nothing. Again, because they had their eyes on eternal life. They had their eyes on the resurrection. They tortured and maltreated the 4th. When he was near death, he said, "It is my choice to die at the hands of men." It seems like they're forced, but he remains free. I'm free. I'm free to decide how I live my life. I'm free to die. I'm free to give my life for the sake of what's right. And so we have this witness of the martyrs. And so to be able to understand this life, we need to understand eternal life. The analogy is a baby in the womb has ears and a brain and tongue, but really to understand what's going on, what it's all about, you really have to understand life. And that's why the Christians see death as birth to eternal life. And so to really understand why the brain and why the tongue, we have to see and experience life outside of the womb. And just as a child inside the womb would probably prefer to stay there because it's kind of a violent birth. But there's no comparison. And everything in the womb is simply a preparation for life. But in the same way, this life is just a preparation for eternal life. And to understand why everything here is the way it is, we have to have this wider perspective. We have to realize eternal life. And just as this life is a much greater pitch than life in the womb, in a similar way, eternal life is life at a much greater pitch than this life. And so in the gospel, we have the Sadducees who deny the resurrection. And so they think that all there is this life. And so heaven is closed. And they put this question to Jesus, trying to trap him, because for them it doesn't make sense that if there is the resurrection, how is it possible that a woman who's married 7 times, whose wife would she be if eternal life exists? And Jesus tells them that they don't understand eternal life, which means they don't understand this life. Because eternal life is not simply a continuation of this life. Rather, this life is a seed, is a preparation for something that's greatly different than this life. And so Jesus tells them, the children of this age marry and remarry, but those who are deemed worthy to attain to the coming age and the resurrection of the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage. They can no longer die, for they are like angels, and they are the children of God, because they are the ones who will rise. And so, eternal life is what we're being prepared for. And so the things of this earth are simply a preparation. And so marriage is something good. Marriage is the communion of 2 people where 2 become one, where they share a life together. But what this is a preparation for is eternal life, where each one of us will have this relationship with God, that we become one with God, that we share in the life of divinity. And so, as good as marriage is, it's simply pointing to a higher, greater reality, where we, each one of us, will be one with God, share life with God. And also, a fruit of marriage is fruitfulness, life. But in eternal life, we'll have a life that doesn't end, a life that can't be taken away. And even the happiness that we experience here is a foretaste of a much greater happiness, a more fuller happiness, a more profound happiness of eternal life. But when Jesus speaks about those deemed to attain to the coming age and the resurrection of the dead, that they are like angels, they are children of God, he's speaking in the present tense. He's not talking about eternal life in the future. He's talking about they are children of God. They are like angels. Because eternal life is something that we can experience already here, already now. Eternal life is to enter into another dimension. And so the heroic virtue that we see witnessed by the martyrs can be lived by us. But not because we have a hope of eternal life, not that we have this belief in eternal life, because we've already experienced eternal life, because we've already entered into eternal life, because we're already living a foretaste of eternal life already here and already now. And so this is what's being given to us in the Eucharist. And so in the Eucharist, it's exactly this, that God is giving himself to us, and so we can enter into this relationship, into this communion, into this union with God itself. Which means that we have in ourselves eternal life. We have a spirit that doesn't die. We have a spirit that can't enter into death. We have a spirit that's eternal. So Jesus Christ entered into death and has come back. And so he's revealed to us where we're going. He's revealed to us our destiny. He comes back with a glorified body, a body that's able to pass through walls. But what he's revealing to us is what he's gained for us, the victory he's gained for us. It means that we also will have a glorified body. We will also have a body that will no longer die. But again, it's something that we can experience already here. And so it's through the sacraments, through the Eucharist, that this gift of eternal life comes to us. And if we have this guarantee that death has been destroyed, if we have this experience of eternal life, then just as the martyrs in the first reading, just as they think in a heroic way, just as their actions are heroic, that they're not pressured, they're not afraid, there's no fear of death. They do the right thing, no matter what the torture is, no matter what the pressure is. Not even the fear of death forces them to abandon doing the right thing, which is the life of a Christian. It means that we can also live without any fear of death, without any fear of torture, without being pressured at all to abandon the truth, to abandon the right way. Because, again, not that we have this belief in eternal life, but we already experience it here. And so, as in the first reading, he regarded his sufferings as nothing, confident in the resurrection. And so, we ask God to give us this gift of faith, that we enter into this reality, that we can receive what's being given to us, this gift of eternal life. And so, Jesus Christ is resurrected. Jesus Christ has eternal life, but he comes to share it with us. He comes to unite himself with us. He comes to share this victory with us. And then we can live in a different way. We can be sure of eternal life. And so let us enter into this Eucharist being open to receive this gift so that we can experience now what we'll experience in its fullness in eternal life.